What is going on, everyone? My name is Adam Gelman. Welcome to the Main Event Wrestling Cards Podcast, Episode 5. I am going to hopefully have a lot of information here that I know a lot of people have been looking for, but I want to make sure that everybody understands how to get even more coverage of all the things that I'm talking about. Be sure to subscribe to our Patreon group, www.patreon.com/main event wrestling cards. You can get all of this plus more for free on the Patreon group. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple or YouTube, there's just a ton more that I cover. It's all free. Take a look, enjoy all of the coverage of wrestling cards. I know how big of a demand there is for information. I know how many people are looking for the edge in their collecting, and that is what I aim to provide. Main Event is supposed to be a one-stop shop for everything you need on wrestling cards. Today, I'm going to talk about a few things, mostly focused around Cactus Jack, Topps Chrome WWE's next set. And to be honest with you, this set is probably one of the more controversial releases that I've seen in a long time. And I say that not only because of the original that was released during WrestleMania 41, but also because of just the general consensus around this product, the pricing, everything. I'm going to get into all of that as best I can today. I think from what I've seen on social media, there seems to be a general disconnect, both in terms of information available, education level on Topps' strategy, and how that relates to the eventual sort of distribution of this product. But even before we get into that, I think it's worth it to explain maybe why this product is coming out the way that it is. Spend some time a little bit going through the price and the contents of each box, and then the release strategy of it, as well as like what to expect from a values perspective, because we have a lot of data on the WrestleMania version of this, and I think this set could perform differently in some areas, better in other areas, worse in some areas as well. So I'll go through all of that. This is going to be a really fun experience for a number of different reasons to basically bring product back to shelves at WWE. I know for a fact that a lot of people have been hurting for wax, not just breakers who have, sort of business models and side hustles built around breaking WWE wax on their channels, but also just general collectors who want more stuff to chase. And I think for a long time, there hasn't been a readily accessible product available for people to buy, available for people to engage with. And Cactus Jack is definitely that product. So I think the case run for this product should be around 2,500 to 3,000 cases, and that's a lot. That's a lot of product to go around. There's not going to be any shortage of this. I said the same thing for Topps Chrome, and then everybody just ate it up so quickly that I think all of those predictions about how the 22 cases or 2,200 cases, 2,500 cases of that went so quickly. Um, there's just a high demand. There's a high demand for WWE, and I covered this on the podcast last week. I covered this on Main Event Wrestling Cards today as well. So be sure to check out the feed on what is driving the demand as much as it is, why wrestling cards are so hot, what is driving all of the additional people coming in, looking to buy wrestling cards, participate in our niche, which is great. I mean, I love that this is such a popular space to play in now, and I think this product is going to be the first of many to really welcome a lot of people into our midst. And it's going to be interesting to see how the pricing responds, both in terms of the wax prices and in terms of the singles prices and stuff like that, which I'll get into. So let's start at the beginning here. So originally there was a Cactus Jack Topps Chrome release that went out at WrestleMania. WWE World is the convention that Fanatics Events puts on every year now for everything wrestling cards and wrestling's licensed gear, autographs, you name it. It was all at WWE World. You could go and meet your favorite superstars. They did it in Vegas this year. They're doing it again in Vegas next year. Can guarantee it's going to get bigger and better every single year. And one of the ways that they wanted to reward the people who were attending the convention is by releasing an exclusive product, the first ever WrestleMania branded product that is only available for the people who went to WWE World and was able to pick up the boxes from the show. They did offer some allocations out to breakers, but it was limited. And I think as we've seen pricing on the secondary market reflect the exclusivity of this product and how ridiculously short printed it really is. So I said 2014 Topps Chrome was the shortest run Topps Chrome product ever made. And I think from calculations, we're looking at maybe about 250 to 300 cases produced. It might have been the shortest print Topps Chrome product ever made across all sports, but definitely wrestling. 2015, 2020, and 2021 Topps Chrome were all relatively normal print runs for WWE at the time that they were released. But this one, this exclusive product released at WrestleMania 41, is definitely one that I think puts all of that in a different stratosphere. There were likely 1,000 cases of this available, but each case only had 5 boxes, and each box only had 8 cards. So you can imagine how insanely rare a lot of these cards. I'm sorry, rare is the wrong word, scarce is probably a better word, how scarce the availability is of a lot of these singles. And I think if you look at the full run of boxes, each with a tiny amount of cards per box, we're probably like not even close to the amount of cards that were printed for 2014 Topps Chrome. This is just really hard to find numbers that match up with this short print type of product ever in the history of wrestling cards, maybe in the history of all cards, because even though they did Cactus Jack releases for baseball, I have to imagine there were more boxes of that made than there were for WWE World. So that being said, we have seen a lot of these boxes ripped. We've seen high prices for singles. And I think Topps got the message from collectors that they wanted a shot at new product. They wanted a shot at this product. And their solution was making a hobby version of it where they took most of the same content, removed the WrestleMania branding, they removed the Ray Wave pattern for the parallels, they expanded the autograph checklist, they added case hits and inserts. They've added a bunch of stuff to this and released it and are going to release it in a way that is much, much different from what we've seen on the WrestleMania side. So the EQL pre-order was last Monday, and it went about as expected. Probably one of the longest EQL queues that Topps has had in a while. Um, I would say it was likely more people in line for this than there were for Topps Chrome WWE, only because there's such a high demand now for wrestling cards versus what there were at the beginning of 2025. It could be that a smaller run of cases was made available through the EQL process. There's a number of different reasons why this is the way that it is and why it's different than a lot of the other releases across the other sports. But I think the most surprising element of this release was the price. I expected it to start really low with pre-order and then explode on the secondary market. I think the price that they put on this was even above my expectations. Per box, Topps is selling this at $400 a box. It is 20 packs, 5 cards per pack. So a normal Topps Chrome box, but the contents of this, there is not a guaranteed autograph per box. So you can imagine at only 4 autographs per case and really only 5 total autograph parallels available, there really isn't a lot of autograph content in this product. Now, a lot of us who collect autographs and live by the autographs in WWE products, maybe this isn't the product for you, But the understanding is that it's one of many that are right on the heels of this release. We've already seen them sign Universe, so Topps Universe has to be one of the products that's coming out next. They're already in the process of signing Topps Finest. So I would assume that over the next couple of months, we should have 2 to 3 products on the market at one time for WWE. And I cannot explain how important that is to quell the demand that is currently out there for wrestling cards. I've seen post after post after post across social media looking for WWE wax, looking for WWE singles. Even at the national convention, people couldn't keep WWE in stock. There's a lot of people out there that are coming into this space, seeing the underdeveloped sort of nature of our hobby and asking themselves if this is the right place to dive in. And for a lot of them, the answer is yes. And so when you see a product like this come to market, which has a very popular music star attached to it, has a very sort of important place of being the first product in 6 months, like there's going to be a long line of people waiting to pick this stuff up. Now, does that mean that by the time that this, gets to the next product after this, that things won't have changed? I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball at this point, but I can speculate that the breaking channels and a lot of the people that use the wax to fund their business um, will keep this price at or where or above where it is. Right now, you can get pre-order boxes on eBay for around $600 a piece, so $200 above pre-order. I think it was generally the same when Topps Chrome Hobby came out. So you had wax sell at $175 a pre-order. By the time it released, it was about $379. So, the $200 price increase seems pretty standard. I think the contents not having an autograph per box adds a lot of value to the autographs that you pull, depending on what the subject is that you end up with. But I think it's a negative across the whole strategy of this product. Like I believe that the singles and the parallels will sell well, but are they enough to cover a lot of the other parts of the pricing structure that just doesn't equate the same way that it would if they had an autograph per box? Now, one could argue most autographs you pull out of a WWE product range from, at a base level $20 to $100, with some extreme examples being well above that. But for the most part, the autographs don't add a ton of value beyond just the chance of pulling something big. You pull Roman Reigns, you pull The Rock, you pull Stone Cold Steve Austin, Cody Rhodes. Sure, you're going to get $150 to $200 for those autographs. If it's The Rock, it's multiple thousands. But I don't know if that's really the answer to this product being what it is. The cost of the box is not determined by the value of the singles that are included in the product's checklist. The value of the wax on the secondary market is all about replacement cost. So if I'm a breaker and I buy this box at $600, but I can't buy another one at $600, I have to treat my inventory differently. I will have to either increase to meet the market and create margin for myself, or I'm going to have to pay above what I paid to acquire the boxes in its own right. There's allocations that are out there that are probably going to be less than pre-order cost, but because market price is so much higher, it's going to continually create this cycle of wax costs going up and up and up and up and up. Now, if the contents of the boxes is complete garbage, which is a definite possibility, then some of those prices may come down because there's not as much demand to sell slots through the breaking strategies. There's not as demand to buy boxes at a level for the shops. So shops put their cases up on DealerNet. The replacement cost comes down. There's a lot more supply and a lot less demand. Economics takes hold. So it really depends on how many people out there are looking for the wax to stock their channel, to stock their store, to do whatever it is that they need to run their business. And if the supply on DealerNet is higher than the demand, the price is going to go down until people buy. If the demand is higher than the supply, the price goes up. This is basic economics with breaking and basic economics with managing your shop. So it's not as much, oh, this card sold for $100, it's the top hit in the product. That all has a part in this, but it's not the whole thing. So I think like Topps is likely putting this at a $400 price tag for a couple of reasons. Number one, they want to make sure that they're getting as much revenue out of this as they possibly can. So instead of saying we're going to sell this at $200 and let secondary market breakers and shops sell it at 600 because that's market price, we're going to sell it at $400 and make more of the initial revenue back. And I think that was the strategy they used for Bowman Chrome. That was the strategy they used for Bowman Draft. That was a lot of strategy they've used across a lot of these different sports, trying to set pre-order price closer to market value so that the margin of secondary market value is smaller and Topps can reclaim some of that revenue. They're a business. This is a strategy. And so far, it's been pretty successful for them. In fact, if they had put Cactus Jack on pre-order at $600 a box, it still would have sold out. And I think the challenge that a lot of collectors face is rectifying their need to get involved with the wax and then the price that is sort of realized in the back end for all the different elements of the product that they're going to be ripping. So let's keep going down this path of understanding the pricing strategy because I think for a lot of people, this wasn't exactly what they were expecting, myself included. And if you're somebody that judges your experience in this hobby by your experience in with ripping wax and getting involved with the box breaks, like I get it, man. Like we're all in a lot of those same positions. I remember like reading through a lot of the reactions on social media. A lot of them were inherently negative. A lot of the collectors online tend to sort of focus on the fact that this is another product that was based on a previous product rather than a new product. A lot of people are focusing on Travis Scott's involvement in this. All those are valid points, but I think they're overestimating the online sort of knowledge of these things being what they are. So, like, I'll give you an example. I'm not sure how many people really had access to the Cactus Jack WrestleMania release. I'm not sure how many people are fully aware of how the WrestleMania cards are going to compute or sort of fit in to this particular product. They are two different sets. They have different branding on the front of it. So I think like I'm not sure a lot, like, even though we're terminally online and I spend most of my day in front of a computer, not every collector does that. A lot of people just come in, do what they want, and leave. There's not a lot of education, there's not a lot of structure to their participation. Maybe they buy into a break or two, maybe they do a few things. Like, to them, like, this is the first time some of them may be seeing the Cactus Jack cards. They may have heard about some of the other cards from the WrestleMania set. They may not have had any in their collection. So for a lot of people out there, this really isn't like the retread that I think a lot of others are probably painting it as. More importantly, like, I'm not sure how relevant the Travis Scott sort of controversies are surrounding this really are, mainly because like he's an insanely popular musician. A lot of people love his music. A lot of collectors are old white men in this space. So, the younger crowd that lives for, today's music and stuff like that, I'm definitely not one of them, but I understand the appeal here. I also understand that Topps has used Travis Scott as a spokesperson for a lot of different products. They're going to continue to use him even if he's not involved in the WWE. He's been at Fanatics Fest both years. He has shown interest in cards as a general sort of part of his sort of fandom. So I don't think he's necessarily the key to a lot of the hate that is out there, that I think a lot of people on social media really don't grasp his importance to the marketability of this set. And I think that's unfortunate that sort of people are taking that angle, but I also understand sort of why their limited understanding of his popularity may be due to their age, their race, their all these other things. And personally, I've only listened to the Travis Scott song that was all over the WWE broadcast. I don't know a lot about his music, And I'm sure a lot of collectors out there are just like me, but there are others that they're looking to bring into the fold here that maybe love his music and would want cards with his branding on it. So I think as we get into like what the strategy is, like it is what it is at this point. All right, let's talk a little bit about the release strategy as well, because I know this brought up a little bit of a controversy too. If you guys haven't been part of the Topps ecosystem before, like what they're doing with a lot of these boxes is nothing new. And they prioritize the breaking channel above all else, and rightfully so. They see breakers as the door to collectors that I think they feel a lot of product goes through their hands, a lot of influence goes through their hands in their shows, and they have the ability to speak directly to the collectors in a manner that uh, Topps marketing on social media and through email just won't ever have the opportunity. So instead of prioritizing allocations across the country to shops that may or may not have a WWE crowd attached to their store, they're prioritizing allocation to breakers who they know are going to break the product on Fanatics Live or whatnot. They have direct breaker accounts. They're expecting the street team to be in action with the breakers out there influencing people on the product. And as we've seen in just about every other circumstances, this strategy is very, very helpful to getting the word out on the streets that a new product is here and it's worth your attention. I saw with Topps Chrome breakers with product in hand that had never broken WWE before. They have a huge platform. Then there are other breakers, Filth Bomb, Blez, you name it, that have huge platforms. Run Good Life has a huge platform, does a ton of wrestling. Those platforms do a lot of wrestling, and so they have a crowd built up. And they want those breakers as well as the other ones to lead the charge in making sure that people understand the contents of this product. And for the most part, it's been interesting because you get into these channels, you get into these rooms, the breakers don't know the names of the wrestlers, so on and so forth. It's not as good as marketing as they probably would like in that sense. But because they're providing access to new groups of collectors, it's been successful. And more importantly, it sells through the product more quickly. So if their strategy is to release a product a month or so on and so forth, they want the product to go fast and they want the demand to be high and they want supply to be at a manageable level so that they can continue the cycle of getting boxes out the door and into the hands of the people, the end users that are going to rip them and collect them and so on and so forth. So I think the strategy itself is not popular among online collectors for a lot of different reasons. It doesn't give a lot of accessibility to have collectors um, with stuff with boxes in hand, with packs in hand. That's not the direction that this is going. I know that's different than the way Panini delivered WWE products. That's different than the way Topps originally delivered WWE products. But unlike Panini, Topps has cut ties with all distributors. So the only people that are selling this product to the individual people are the people at Fanatics themselves. And I think they Fanatics bought Topps to have this IP, to have this pre-existing structure of individuals that can, create these products for them. They didn't have to start from scratch. But they also have really revolutionized the way that the hobby engages with the products, the way the boxes make it into the hands of the people that eventually sort of rip the product, collect the product, and so on and so forth. There are so many times where I've seen just a lot of people who do not understand that everything has changed in hobby distribution as of January of last year. So just keep that in mind as you are wondering why your shop or your experience is different now with Fanatics in charge than it was with Panini or even Topps the first time around. Secondly, slot prices are going to be high out of the gate. Like everybody should just walk into this understanding that most breakers are filling cases at $5,500 to $6,000 a case. That means that there's going to be a heavy pressure to put slot prices at a high level for the big names on the checklist. We have not seen the checklist yet, but I would assume the base set is going to be very similar to what they already put out for the WrestleMania version, down to I think even using the same photos without the WrestleMania logo on the front. So I think the autograph checklist is going to be very different. We've already seen new names that are being added to that through the previews that they've done. But the individual base checklist should be generally the same. So that means slots like Stephanie Vaquer and Julia and Jacob Fatu and Roman Reigns and all these and Cody Rhodes and so on and so forth. Like those wrestler slots will likely be over $100 a piece. Lower slots for less important superstars will still be in the $5 to $10 range. So I don't think that there's going to be much difference there than what we saw with Topps Chrome. I think the only thing that changes is that if we have more Stephanie Vaquer autos on the market, if we have more Julia autographs on the market, like those slot prices are going to be a lot more expensive this time around because the cost of their cards on the secondary market are much higher, but it should be offset by lowering of some others that maybe haven't had as much success on the secondary market. I think Penta is another one that is going to be a big chase for a lot of people. He should have autographs in this. I think they may include some Ray Phoenix cards on the checklist for the first time. So we're going to have to see how the debuts of some of the stars, whether or not we see Mariah May, Blake Monroe get a card here, I think is yet to be seen. It's possible she has a base card. It's possible that she's included in some of these sets, but I think we're likely looking at finest before we see any of her stuff really get into sets, if not the sets after that. Production timelines on base cards usually run about 3 to 4 months, so we're still at the edge of that time frame being expired. But she would be a very hot ticket in this set if she had cards on the checklist. We'll have to wait and see and determine if she's actually in the product. I think the other aspects of this all sort of stem from the fact that the checklist is really important, especially from an autograph set standpoint. Like if you are only including 4 autographs per case, which I think is going to be the situation here, then you have to remember that the checklist is the most important piece of this product because those autographs, especially the inscriptions and stuff like that, the chase cards are all autographs. There's some superfractor base cards, I'm sure, that go really high into values, but overall, like the major things that we're trying to figure out are what the values of those autographs really are going to be and how those are all playing into a lot of the situations with secondary market values and demand and so on and so forth. So I think like we as a collector base are and eagerly anticipating the release of the checklist. And hopefully that will come very shortly here. I would guess either sometime next week or the week after as we lead into the release on the 29th. But I think we also should talk about some of the biggest sales from the original set and maybe what to expect from this new set. So if you have been following along on Card Ladder or one of the other data tracking tools that are out there, eBay sold prices, some of the cards are reflected in terms of the big sales, some are not. And I've been tracking a lot of this stuff through people telling me what they've paid and other things like that. But the Cactus Champions cards in the original set are the only ones that have superfractors. So throughout the entire set, there's only one series of one of ones in the entire product, and that's the Cactus Champions. Those cards are exceptionally valuable cards. The Cody Rhodes just sold for around 70 to 50. We know Rhea Ripley sold for about 9 grand. We've seen Liv Morgan sell for about 5 or 6 grand. I have the Becky Lynch one. There's a Roman Reigns. I think there's a bunch of them that have gone for a ton of money. But I still think those are going to be cheaper than some of the main inscription autographs and chase cards from this product. The reason being is that in Topps Chrome Hobby, a lot of the inscription cards were on the 1 of 25 cards or the 1 of 10 cards. So some of the superfractors had inscriptions, especially the base autograph superfractors. But I think the level of detail that Topps is putting into the superfractor autograph inscriptions in this product will make the Topps Chrome Hobby ones look kind of silly because we've already seen some previews of them and they look absolutely awesome. So I would expect like Julia has an inscription that we've seen, Rhea Ripley has an inscription we've seen, Naomi has an inscription we've seen as Miss Money in the Bank. Like there's so many different things here that drive just an insane collectability and chase to this product. So I think that those cards may eclipse, because they are one of ones, they may eclipse the original Cactus Champions high watermarks that were set. Other than that, I mean, Stephanie Vacquer's autographs are selling 2 to 3 thousand a piece. We know The Rock, when he becomes live, will probably sell 2 to 3 thousand a piece. We've seen Julia's autographs sell for mid four figures as well. So I mean, like those are really the primary drivers of the original set. Penta and Jacob Fatu and Roman Reigns and all of those other ones will be the same chase levels in this product. If they do end up having inscriptions, there's going to be a lot more chase there as well. So I think overall, just keep in mind that because these are one of one superfractors, it's a little bit different of a chase. Outside of that, like we have yet to see if Travis Scott is on this track list. His autographs went for $4 to $5,000 a piece. They were only out of 10, I think, was the top parallel. So there's a lot of them that a lot of demand for them, but not a lot of supply because of the limited parallels that they were available in. And if there ends up being a Travis Scott Superfractor autograph, I think that's a five-figure card easy. I also believe that if they were able to get Hulk Hogan to sign some cards prior to his death to release in this set, those cards will be heavily chased. His stuff clearly has been spiked as a result of his untimely passing. So there's a lot going on there as well that could translate to huge secondary market spikes. Beyond that, I think the base cards themselves really do have to carry a lot of value, given that some boxes of this stuff will just be base and base parallels. I think we're expecting 4 or 5 a box, refractors and numbered cards. So this is not going to be easy to pull something nice. You're going to have to rip a lot of it, and that's why the case breaks are so important. A lot of access will be delivered to the breakers, and as a result, the slots are probably the best way to go if you are a single-minded PC collector like I am. You're not going to want to go and rip a ton of boxes chasing the people that you collect. It's better just to buy a case break slot and hope you get lucky. I'll do a lot of that. I'm going to be participating in a lot of breaks, so I'm excited for this. I'm not a huge fan of some of the designs. I think the design element of this product was based on Travis Scott's sketches and a few other things. And, it definitely takes a certain appreciation for some of the way that the cards are designed, specifically the autographs with the little Cactus Jack logos around the border. It's not my cup of tea. But I'm a super collector and I have to have one of everything. So I'll be looking at that. I think the Astro Knights, which is the steel cage design, looks really cool. I think the Kings of the Night, which is another case hit, those are really cool. But you really have to sort of appreciate that this is a very niche product within a niche market. And that always spells challenge for mass marketing and all the other aspects of this. I'm still kind of thinking the jury is out on how the secondary market is going to respond to the individual singles. But if it's an autograph superfractor with an inscription, it's going to sell for a ton of money. It could be a trash bag with a superfractor pattern and an inscription and an autograph. It would sell for a ton of money. So I don't think there's any risk at the chase level. I think at the individual parallel level, there's still a little bit yet to be seen as to like how this is going to play out, who's going to buy what, so on and so on through the different aspects of the checklist. But we will find that out pretty quickly. I have a feeling these cards will hit eBay very fast. Pre-order boxes, I would expect to go out a little bit early, so you might even see some of the boxes ripped from the pre-order the week before. But yeah, I'm excited. I think that this is like one of those products because of its controversial nature that people will tune in just to watch it play out and see how it actually reacts on screen. I think the cards will look much nicer in hand, likely based on the way that the original Cactus Jack cards were looking. I'm glad they removed the Raywave parallel Ray Wave stock pattern from the parallels. Not a huge, wasn't as huge a fan of that as I would be in some of the other cases, and I think that's another reason why the Cactus Jack Champions cards were so valuable, is because they were the ones that really sort of were the traditional type of Topps Chrome cards. So those cards are not coming back, it doesn't look like, for this set. So if you were lucky enough to snag one of those, consider yourself among the lucky. But it's going to be fun to get back on the horse and have a new product to chase. I think Universe or Finest will come really close after that. They've seemed to have sorted out some of the delays that have happened with pack out and getting stuff back from the superstars. And I hope this is not the only release we have before the end of the year. I think that would be a huge mistake for Topps. I think we're well into the period now where they should be able to release some stuff back to back. And hopefully by the time we reach mid-September, we'll have another product on the market as well. But that's all yet to be seen. Stay tuned to Main Event Wrestling Cards for more coverage on Cactus Jack. I'll have a ton of market analysis. I'll have a ton of product analysis. You can follow me on Instagram at WWE Gelman. You can follow me on Twitter at SC Uncensored. A lot of big stuff happening next week, which I'll get into after it happens, because I don't want to spoil the surprise here. I do have some announcements around the Main Event Wrestling Cards 1 year anniversary set, a few other things that I'm going to be talking about there. Plus, we've got wrestling to discuss next week. I hope to bring that back. I'm recording this ahead of Monday Night Raw, so I didn't get a chance to sort of see how things play out coming off last week's Fallout show from SummerSlam, but they seem to be on the way with John Cena versus Logan Paul at Clash in Paris. We're going to have Stephanie Vaquer have her first title shot at Clash in Paris. We are absolutely aiming to see Becky Lynch versus Nikki Bella, which, not the biggest Nikki Bella fan, but I guess this is a good feud for my PC to go over the top again. We're seeing a lot of really good developments just overall in sort of telling of the storylines. Brock Lesnar has yet to come back on TV after last week, which is a bit of a surprise, but we do know that Roman Reigns is going to be back on the show coming up here, and he's likely going to have a match in Paris. So it's good. The wrestling part of this is only ramping up here as we head into War Games. But until then, check out Main Event Wrestling Cards, www.patreon.com/Main Event Wrestling Cards, and I will see you next week.